Hi everyone, I'm Collin Margerum. I'm the featured artist for the 30th Fall Festival of the Arts in DeLand. I'm sorry I couldn't be there with you tonight, but I have a special treat for you. I'm going to take you around my studio and show you the process I use to create my art. So let me tell you about the beginning, how I became an artist. Both my parents were artists. My mother was a fine art photographer, and my dad was a high-fire stoneware potter. Me and my brothers grew up in that environment, surrounded by creativity, and I learned to draw at a very young age and use clay to sculpt my drawings. It was I believe that was my mom's idea to not buy coloring books, but just blank pads of paper. I didn't necessarily focus my school on developing it, because actually growing up, going to elementary school was something I got in trouble for, was not paying attention and drawing in my where I should have took notes. Or as time went on, drawing was the through line. It was always something I did. I realized, like, through meeting my wife and telling her about my childhood, like how we grew up doing the art show circuit all around the country, like that's the furthest thing from a normal upbringing. It becomes formative, It's if you're around something and you see it, it's normal to you, I ended up getting into UCF and studied film production there. It taught me how to really focus on narrative, and I actually was able to incorporate drawing back into that because I learned how to storyboard scripts. I didn't know when I was in college that I wanted to be a professional artist doing the shows. I grew up doing that, and it wasn't something that I necessarily had in mind. Something unique with me is that I actually grew up doing the art show circuit with my dad, Collin Margerum. Some of you may even know him. And I would help him do the show in DeLand. He encouraged me to go ahead and apply for the Emerging Artist for the Gasparilla Festival of the Arts in Tampa. I got accepted to that show. I think I brought about 8 originals to that show, and I sold 4 of them. That was the start of my business. I made enough money to sort of outfit the back third of this studio, to build it in, create my first studio, and then it's just been growing ever since. In addition to being an artist, I'm also a family man. I'm a father of a 5-year-old boy, CJ, and a 10-month-old girl, Marley. And I am lucky to have a wife who is very supportive. She runs 50% of the business. She does all the organizing, all the logistics. She created and manages the website. So one of the cool things about being an artist is that we get to travel all around the country and showcase my work. And that's actually why I'm not here with you tonight, because I'm in New York City showing at the Gracie Square show. It's great for my kids. They get to see all of the culture that New York has to offer, and we're lucky to be able to see the country. Traveling and doing shows like in big metropolitan areas, it does offer a lot of challenges, because I have to haul a trailer filled with my artwork, so it can be kind of nerve-wracking at times, but it makes you feel like a big boy selling art in New York City. But you feel like a real artist, and so I really enjoy that. I love to do the DeLand show. It's one of the more artist-friendly shows. The committee's great, and they treat the artists very well, and it's also very good. Typically for me, I've never had a bad show there, so I sell well, and I'm very pleased with the reception that I get from the community, so thank you very much. The best way I can kind of explain The work is, so the way I started off was really highly detailed, hyper-realistic drawings that were narrative focused, character focused, and it was done on a perfect blank sheet of paper. I work on a birch panel. I make all the panels myself. I like the sort of tactile nature of that. I don't prefer like canvas. I like to work on something that's more rigid. Some of the materials I use are acrylic mediums like gesso. I draw primarily with charcoal and soft pastel, and a lot of the mark making that you see in the foreground of my pieces are done with oil stick. Like I'll do all of the hands-on construction part first. I'll prep the panels with gesso, and then I typically do all the painting all at once, and I cycle through between like 3 and 7 pieces depending on how many are available. But I apply loads of color that I generally start with just primary colors plus titanium white. There's an infinite amount of variability to that. In terms of coming up with my palette, I do that all automatically. And the point of doing that is to create a not so ideal substrate to create a figurative drawing on. And that is because I want to create a contrast between the background and the drawing itself. I finish the piece off by varnishing it with a water-soluble varnish. That whole process can take about a month or more. Having to juggle kids and everything, I allow myself some leeway. Like when the kids go to bed early, I'm out here later at night, and then if they're up early, I'm out, I'm in there. So I can start 6 o'clock in the morning and then all the way to lunch, and then kind of do a break and then be out for like an evening session. The hardest thing for artists to really learn is like when a piece is done. In order to figure that out, you have to be engaged the whole time. And so what engages me is working with contrasting elements, the paint and the dry medium, the color and the monochromatic, the past and the future as a subject matter, and combining them all on a substrate that is almost like a battleground between all those elements. And the point is to make them unified in order for the piece to be finished. With the featured piece you're about to see, you're going to notice contrast right off the bat between a monochromatic drawing and abstract color. This particular image is focused on the future and kind of how we're becoming more and more integrated with technology. And I think, again, going back to the contrast, from my material standpoint, I like using charcoal. That's like the most primitive thing you can use in terms of, a drawing medium. I like to use that to create images of, futuristic subject matter. So when you see the featured piece, look closely and you'll see all of these contrasting elements come together. It's got contrast, it's got color, it's got energy. It's everything I love about making work. It's my pleasure to present to you this year's featured artwork, Thinking Caps.